Hi, everybody. My name is Tony. I'm an addict. This is weird because I didn't know behind this thing you can see yourself and everything. So this is weird. It's like talking to myself. I can't help but look at myself. I'm sorry. I'm kind of stuck on me. I used to say that I'm a legend in my own mind and I'm all I think about. Again, my name is Tony. I'm an addict. My clean date is December 4th, 1988, and I have 31 years. My topic is trusting in the middle of it. Now, the story that goes with getting my topic was Pat had called me, and she pressured me into getting the topic, right? And I'm like, I was at Walmart, she was like, okay, you didn't send over your topic. I was like, the journey continues, you know? Then Mitch called me. He was like, what's your topic? I said, the journey continues. It's like, no, that's too vague. So he asked me to let's have a conversation. So we talked a little bit and I thought about some of the stuff that I've been going through. And some of the stuff that I've been going through is like trusting God in the middle of it. He was like, okay, in the middle of the storm? I said, no, in the middle of it, wherever it is. Because through these years, you don't get this much time without stuff happening. You go through some things. And I'm not going to say I was disconnected from God or God was disconnected from me, but because I used the serenity prayer in a sense where the wisdom to know the difference, sometimes I don't know the wisdom to know the difference because I'm emotionally clouded. And so I have to pray and get some clarity. So sometimes I don't know based on my emotional state where, and then there's light, right? And let there be light. Where my will ends and God's will begins, or where God's will ends and my will begin. And sometimes I get real confused because I want what I want when I want it, and I'm not sure, and I'm not on steady ground. I know that I use drugs based on two factors: to start a feeling or to stop a feeling. I know that drugs was a coping mechanism, a negative one, but it was a coping mechanism, and that's all I had. So when it was removed by me going into treatment for an alibi to say I ain't that bad, I realized that I was kind of left alone. I didn't have my coping mechanism. I thought it was my friend. You ever used to the point where your mind is telling you, use, get high, that's the answer, get it in, we gonna be okay, this will take care of it. And then once you use, you don't hear shit. It's like silence. And you're by yourself with your thoughts, with your actions, with your consequences, and it ain't saying nothing. The disease is not talking anymore, and now you're left by yourself. So when I got clean, I was left by myself. And by me being left by myself, I sometimes just didn't understand how to do this. I know that based on the fact that I was the God of my understanding, like I said, I was a legend in my own mind and I'm all I thought about. I was the God of my understanding. I'm the one that made the decisions to do whatever. I'm the one that made decisions to use drugs. I was the decision maker in my life. And I was told once that if I'm the decision maker in my life and I can't trust the decision maker, then I'm in trouble. So it was just, and I'm a loner, and it was just real difficult at first, to trust anything. But I knew I had to have a power greater than me, that second step stuff. When I was new, it was real difficult at first, really, to just surrender. Now, I said, God, you can have the drug stuff, but I got the relationship. I got this. I can handle this. And God would do for me what I can't do for myself, even if it was devastating. But he wasn't going to do what I could. If I can do it, he wasn't going to step in to do that. And I knew that. But it's like trusting God in the middle of it. How do I trust God in the middle of when the first time that I had to make a decision to end a relationship that I had been in since I was 21 years old, and I was 32 at the time. My kid's dad, and had came into recovery, and everything that you could think of that could happen in a relationship happened in that relationship. Everything. It was real dysfunctional. It was chaotic. Um, and I didn't know. I remember when he asked me, had moved to Pittsburgh when I had 6 months clean from Cleveland, Ohio. And I remember him asking me, could he move in because he wanted to get clean. And I got physically ill. And I knew in my gut that that wasn't the right decision, but I couldn't say no. And it wasn't so much as because I loved him. It was because it was such a habit to enable and to caretake, and the codependency piece of that relationship, because he accepted me in my lowest. And because he accepted me at my lowest and he didn't ask anything from me, I could do anything and be any way in the most negative way. He didn't require me to do anything positive for myself. There was no uplifting in that relationship. But because I had the permission to be the worst that I can be, he was my guy, and I couldn't say no. And I love him in my life, and he had moved in, and he was my kid's dad, my youngest two kids, and he wound up relapsing. But the same behaviors that went on in that relationship. It started all over again. The only thing didn't start was the domestic violence, So we had broke up, and we were broken up for about 9 years. I've been in and out of that relationship for years, and it took until, I guess, he came, those 9 years, I moved to Cleveland, and then he came back into my life in 2000, and I had been married 3 times by then. You switch people, but the face is the same, the behavior is the same as far as the dysfunction. And I'm not saying that they were dysfunctional, I was dysfunctional. I treated relationships like, you will leave me tomorrow. So if you leave me tomorrow, I was real desperate today. And I did certain things just to hang on to you. I made sure I was the perfect wife or girlfriend, and just interacted in a way that just was not, it was where I compromised who I am, who I was, so that you'll be okay. Because I thought you was gonna leave me tomorrow. So when me and him got back together, I had did some work. It had been 9 years. I did some work. He seen it was a different person, and it was like trusting God in the middle of it, and I had to realize that I had to go back to that relationship in order to understand that it was over, if that makes sense. And it didn't last a year. We had gotten married. He was like, if you married those jokers, you might as well marry me. And I thought I did it for my kids because they could have their dad, and it would be great, and everybody wind up hating them, right? In the house, they just was like, we're done with him too. And he's not a bad guy, he just wasn't for me and who I had turned into be. So when I moved to Georgia, he had came, my father had died, and I had made a decision to come to Georgia, and that, like I said, that relationship didn't last. And I remember when I had realized, that I didn't have to be in, and it would be the first time that I could ever walk away, because now I'm in the house, my older 2 kids, they're gone, and it's just me and his sons and our sons, and I'm like, you know what I realized? I can leave, and I can leave you with the kids. For the first time in my life, I can just leave a man with the kids. He moved out in 2 weeks. He didn't even tell me he was leaving. He was out. But I'm so grateful for that. And I really wasn't gonna leave him with the kids. It was just an idea. And trusting God in the middle of that. Who would have known? It's like sometimes you can make decisions that you think are decisions for one reason, and it turns out to be something else. And that was the relief that I needed, because me and him are good friends today. That was back in 2002. And I thank God for that. I really do. I really do, because I know that who I had became and when we got back together that year, you think that you had worked on some things because of the absence of the person, right? The absence of that relationship and the dysfunction. Remember, I said everything happened. So I just swept everything up underneath the rug. So when he came back into my life, everything seemed as though it just came alive again. And I was angry and I was resentful. And I did, he was like, I can't believe, why are you talking to me that kind of way? And I had to realize it was based on all that stuff coming back up. And I just buried it. I hadn't worked on it. It didn't change. So it's like trusting God in the middle of that. He did for me what I couldn't do for myself, even if it was devastating. I remember when he had pushed everything off my nightstand and called me a B. And I was like, no, you a bitch. Because when that happens, I'm ready to fight. And that let me know it's time to go. That relationship is over. Because I'm not going to be abused today by anybody. And that was in 2001, and that's the last time that anybody has, in their right mind, called me out my name. Somebody told me, they said, Tony, you need to get out of that not because of him, because of what you might do. Trusting God in the middle of it. So once he left, this is the situation. I had moved to Cobb County. I was in a house for paying $1,500 a month rent. He left me with his sons. I did not have a job. I did not have a way to make ends meet, and I never missed a beat. God just came in, and this is how God is in my life. He just came in and took care of everything. I remember when I thought my lights was gonna get cut off, and I called somebody. I was like, no, they're threatening to cut off my lights. I said, they was like, you ever had your lights cut off before? I was like, yeah. So what you tripping off? It ain't like you ain't been there. So I called some agencies, and they helped me. It was like sometimes we can forget. We get in recovery, we can forget. And I had about 15 years at that time, and we can forget that we've had some experiences. Addiction just didn't come along and just pass me along like I didn't learn anything. I had never been evicted in my life, so I knew how to keep a place. If my lights got cut off, I knew how to get them cut back on. So it was some things that I did have some tools for that was legitimate. It wasn't like I had to break the law in order to do it. But the fear set in because now I'm in recovery and these things are being pressed because like I said, I ain't had no job, and I went back into what I knew and I went back to doing mortgages and it worked itself out. And I moved out of that house and I started going toward, because I was in Cobb County, and I started going towards Atlanta. And I'm telling you, that whole trusting God in the middle of it, a lot of times, somebody told me today, my sponsee, she was like, somebody said, I believe she said, it's like going up a flight of steps where you can't see the stairwell. I'm like, that's some serious trust right there. That's that blind faith. Not knowing the direction, but keep moving forward. And that's one of my sayings, I just keep moving forward, So about 2000, and I told you when I came here, my father died, and then a couple of years later, my mother died. And while my mother was dying and getting sick, it was real difficult. But I would come to meetings and I would share it. And it got to a point where I stopped sharing. And people would hug me. And they say, how you doing? And I wouldn't say anything. But I was dying silently inside. And I just hugged them and they walk away and they say, okay, good. And then I had went to a convention in South Beach, Florida. And there was this lady named Angie B. She had 6 months clean. And she seen me on the beach and she looked at me, she said, I see me in your eyes. I was like, what? She said, I see the pain. You're on the road to relapse. I see pain in your eyes. And we sat down and talked. And she told me how, I had 18 years clean. And she told me at that time, she had 18 years clean. And then she relapsed. And I said, how did you relapse? She said, with my hand in the air. She said, my name is Angie B, and I'm going through X, Y, and Z, and everybody was like, oh, you okay? You Angie B, you got time, you know what to do. And she said she'd been out there 6 years. And she had been at that convention, and the first time people seen her who had knew her at that convention, seen her, and they bought her a banquet ticket and brought her in, and she got up for the clean time, and they just crowded her with love. And that really touched me. Me and her are friends today. I came back to my area. I raised my hand, and I said, I'm in pain. And I told them that I'm in pain because my mother, she was dying. She wasn't dead yet. She was dying, and I didn't know how to handle it, and that I was dying inside. Because no matter how I felt, no matter what I was going on, I didn't feel connected with God. But see, I know that God is not a feeling God. And it didn't matter how I felt. I know that he still had me, but I didn't feel it. But I still needed to come in here and tell y'all that I'm hurting and I need y'all help. And some people said, oh, you know what to do. I said, I don't know what to do. And I shared the story about Auntie B, and people started supporting me. You know, instead of thinking, because I got time, I know what to do. I only have one mother. How I know what to do if she died? I don't know what to do. Didn't know. I didn't even know how to support her while she was dying. But what I did learn is how to, somebody had told me, embrace everything. Spend as much time as you can, because I was going, she was in Ohio and I was here. And that was a real painful period for me, real painful. But I did what was suggested. I learned how to support my sister and my mother. I just went there and I supported her. But when I would come home, I would be in a fetal position. For 2 days, I didn't share that. I wouldn't tell anybody that. But it was just real difficult. So when my mother did pass, sponsorship is the heartbeat of this fellowship. And I have a sponsor that's wonderful. And she lives in Ohio. And my mother had told me, I went to World, that was in 2005, and she had told me she wanted me to go ahead and go to Hawaii. And I was like, I don't want to go because something's going to happen to you, and I know it, and I'm not going to be able to get off this island. And she died while I was in Hawaii. And it was Labor Day weekend, and it also was when Katrina happened, and there was a lot going on, and I couldn't get off that island. I called my sponsor. She said, just take in every piece of grass. And Alicia, you was there. You was there and you supported me, and I love you for that. And then she said, take in every piece of grass and dew and rain and sand and embrace it because your mother is in every particle of that. She also said that she would go to my sister's house in my stead. Don't worry about it. And she did. She went to my stead, supported my family, helped my sister through getting arrangements together until I got there. You know, that was one of the most painful things, but you know, talking about trusting God in the middle of it, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to be. I was angry with God. It took me 3 years to not be angry with God about that, you know. And I think the most difficult things that I've had to experience where I had to trust God with what's going on is like when my granddaughter died and she was 3 days old. I had no understanding of that, you know, but I had to learn how to support my family. I had to support my son. I had to make funeral arrangements. I had to do everything and connect everything. And it was just, God gave me the information and gave me the insight. You know, I just did the research and made the connections. People in the fellowship supported. A person who has an event place allowed me to have the repast there for free. You know, people donated food and did all the catering for food, you know, and it just, everybody was a person that's in is a reverend, he eulogized my granddaughter. And so the fellowship came together, you know, and it was just a beautiful experience, even though it was a painful experience, but I had no clue. And that's what it's about when you trust God in the middle of it. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to happen. And I'm not just saying tragedies is the only thing you need to trust him with. You know, my last marriage, it's weird because people still sometimes come up to me and, how is you and so-and-so? And I'm like, we're not together anymore. And he's divorced and he's remarried. And he's, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. It really is. You know, like when my first marriage ended, people be like, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Joey. No, because I see, I prayed and asked God to, I said, God, order my steps and I'll follow it. No, that was the third marriage. I said, God, I'll be watching my prayers. I said, God, let your will be done. That's what I said. I broke my leg. My husband left me. I lost my job. He cleaned my plate. See, I have to watch that. He cleaned my plate. And see, sometimes I make my plate too full. And I remember my sponsor telling me, you're going to have to take something off your plate. I was like, no, everything is important. I can't take any of this off. So he cleaned my plate, and people would say, well, I'm sorry to hear that y'all broke up. I'll pray for you. No, don't pray for us. I'm good. You know, I'm really good. I'm really good. So with this last marriage, the fourth marriage, he didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't like we broke up because something was wrong. We grew apart. I had went to school, started school in 2010. Thanks to that lady I just mentioned, she told me we was eating food one day. She was like, you better go get that. And I did. And she's finished, and I'm still going, right? I'm getting my PhD. But I started school in 2010, and I wanted my bachelor's, I wanted my master's, I wanted to be Dr. Toni Monroe all my life. I've always wanted to be a doctor of something, of psychology, really. And it says in that it can be hazardous to relationships. It said that in some of my classes, and you know, you got to really hold on. And it's not because there's something wrong. It's because sometimes you can grow as a person. School gave me a self-esteem and self-worth and confidence that I hadn't had prior. I don't even know what happened. Then menopause happened too. And menopause helped me become more solid in being a woman. You know, everybody thinks it's a bad thing. It's not. You know, it's just a change and a growth that you have as a woman that I'm grateful for, you know, because it let me see what's important and what's not. Menopause let me see what's important and what's not. But we grew apart 5 years ago. When I got my bachelor's, we had decided to split up. And so trusting God in the middle of it, I don't know if a lot of my identity was with that. I know that sometimes jobs that I have, my identity is with my job. And I had to learn that I'm okay without any of it. You know, It Works Here Online on page 112, it talks about being content with or without a relationship, with or without money, you know, and that is talking about right in the here and now, with or without. I have to be content in who I am and with who I am. I'm really pleased at being Toni today. I really am. You know, so trusting God in the middle of it, I didn't know if I could function, not just only emotionally, but financially, because I never moved out the house that we were in, and I never missed a beat. I'm still there, and when he left his mother there for a year, and we grew close. So when I finally made the decision and told him I can't live like that because he wanted to be single, married, 2 weeks later, he moved his mother out, and 4 months later, she died. And after that, I went back into counseling, and I needed it because I had to deal with the griefs that I had. It's like the griefs caught up with me, you know. But I never missed a beat. It was school. I still stayed in school. You know, I still continued on, and I graduated and got my master's, and I have done a lot of things. It's things that I've done that I hadn't even thought that I was capable of doing, or even knew that it was possible, or even was on my radar. When I went into the master's program, they offered me an opportunity to go to Holland and to Paris. And when he said that, and he was like, anybody who's never been abroad, you know, you can go. And I was like, me, like I was like 5, you know. And it was really a wonderful experience because I had learned how to do some things that, like a passion in me grew with doing digital stories. And that's being able to tell somebody else's story and put it on film and kind of edit it and make it a story, make it 5 minutes. And I don't know, I've gotten real good at it. To the point where he gave me a, not a scholarship, a grant. Gave me a $5,000 grant and I took off running. Then the next year he was like, you ain't even gotta apply. I'm gonna give you 10,000. Took off running. Next year, I'm gonna give you 15,000. I was like, great. Then I graduated and I started this PhD process, and I knew my money was kind of getting low for going to school, but the second year of the PhD program, they told me that I don't have any more money to go to school with. And I'm like, okay, trusting God in the middle of it. People telling me, well, maybe it's time for you to stop. Maybe it's time for you to get out of school. Maybe this ain't for you. Maybe this is, you know, and those kind of maybes. And it's like sometimes when you talk to a lot of people, different people about different things, you know, you get all kind of shit back. You got to limit who you talk to. And so there's some people that's in my life that I can share with that has my best interest, that's going to be, who knows me and be unbiased and tell me the truth instead of telling me based on their own fears of what they're not capable of moving past and going beyond, you know. And the school kicked in and gave me some money so I can take at least one class or whatever. And I'm still in school, but I ain't had no money to go to school since August. And I don't know how it's happening. But my faith is so strong that I apply for a class this summer. I don't know how I'm gonna pay for it or anything. I'm paying out of my pocket right now, but it's okay. Trusting God in the middle of it. And I just wanted to share that part because that's where that came up with the topic when we were talking about the topic. It had surrounded my finances. You know, I filed bankruptcy and I didn't know that it would be such a relief, but the school told me that because I filed bankruptcy, even though they told me to file bankruptcy, that I can't get a loan for another 5 years, and I'm gonna be out of damn school before 5 years. So I'm not gonna go backwards because it's a relief that I don't have the debt anymore, and it's a difference. I had all that debt to carry me through because I thought I needed it based on the divorce, and it's been 5 years, and it's been a struggle trying to make all this shit work and make it meet and not telling nobody. Traveling around from credit card to credit card, and my girlfriend's in the room right now hearing this for the first time, but not telling nobody. So when I filed bankruptcy, it was a relief for me because somebody told me there's a difference between bills and debt. And I didn't really know that. I thought they was all debt. So I got rid of my debt, and the bills is real difficult still. But I got an ideal in my head, and that's why I'm talking about trusting God in the middle of it, because sometimes I think, a friend of mine told me that I need to struggle so I can learn that I can struggle. And that means that I don't need any assistance but God's assistance. And that's not saying that I'm not going to, you know, turn down help, but all money ain't good money. And then all money ain't for me. So I have to figure out how to do it in the right way to where, I don't know, that it's going to be okay. And that's where my struggle is with the whole trusting God in the middle of it. Because, you know, I'm 60 years old, I'm single for the first time for years without having a relationship out of convenience for a purpose. Having a man there so he can help me or not. Because even though men have been there, ain't no man ever took care of me. Never in my life. It's never happened. You know, women talk about it all the time, how wonderful it is and their husbands take care of them and it's great. And I'm happy for y'all, but that shit ain't never happened for me. I'm really happy for y'all. You know, I've always had to carry my own or carry half, at least, or more than half. Don't let me make more money than I'm paying more money. But that's who I am because I pay into my household and I take care of my household because I heard what I said. I don't want the lights cut off, right? make sure the lights working and all the rest of the stuff is working, so my bills are going to be paid. But trusting God in the middle of it, it's like, sometimes I don't know what to do. But what I do know is that what I want is I want to live alone. I ain't never lived alone in my life. I had a daughter at 16. I always had somebody in my household, children, man. I was going to say dog. It was a time it was me and the dog. But I just got to trust this process, and it's hard. You know, it's hard at times. But my sponsor did something for me, and I'm the one that helps everybody. I'm the one that gives, and it's not just financial, but my time and everything. I'm a giver. And my sponsor, she had bought me an airline ticket and paid for a room and had me go to the women's convention. And she said it's her honor. And she told me that she's humbled by my humility for allowing her to help me. And that was some good stuff. But believe it or not, I didn't have a good time. I didn't. You know, I appreciate hanging out with her. I really did, but I felt so alone. And I need to share this because I went to Detroit and there was a lot of people there that knew me for years, knew me my whole recovery, knew me from Cleveland, from Pittsburgh, and I talk with them and I share with them to let them know what's going on. And one of the things is that I feel real disconnected. And this one lady who I've been knowing forever, she told me she'd been feeling the same way and what she did when she got back in service. I felt disconnected. And it's weird because people doing the same thing they did to me when I was in Cleveland, moving from Cleveland to Pittsburgh. You still live here? Are you living here? Or did you move? And I'm like, I just work in Griffin. I didn't move anywhere. I work in Griffin. That's what I've been saying because people don't see me. But I go to meetings, some on the south side, some in Griffin, my home group when I can find where it is. I see, we lost our home, my home group lost our meeting place, we did. And so it's like, that's disheartening for me when people ask me, where you been? I ain't seen you. And I wanna get smart with them, bring your ass to my home group, you might be able to see me, but I know that ain't the truth, you know? I'm disconnected. My connection is through my sponsees. My connection is through my sponsor. My connection is still through my sponsee family, but my connection ain't through being seen in meetings. And that's what I'm used to, being at meetings. But because of my schedule, my job taking over a lot, school, finding God in the middle of it, you know? Because I feel like I'm running my own show, running off my own juice. And I know that's a dangerous area. Now, I'm not saying I'm on the road to relapse and nothing like that. What I'm saying is I feel disconnected. I'm saying exactly what it is. And I got to get back connected. And I think what happens also in this whole process of trying to figure out where God is in the middle of it gets depressing. And I'm not saying I'm depressed. See, it's a difference. Y'all not got to understand that if I feel a certain way doesn't mean it's that way. If I feel I'm insecure, I have to check out to see if my surroundings is insecure or is there something going on with me. So if I feel disconnected, that don't mean I am disconnected. It's just a feeling and it's what I need to do in order to connect back because it's about human connection. You know, I know that when I'm in survival mode, when I feel desperation, when I feel as though the walls are closing in, I make bad decisions. And that's why it's real important, no matter how much time you have. You know, I got 31 years, but I only got today. You know, and when I feel the way that I'm feeling in this vulnerable space, I have to take care of my spirit. You know, trusting God in the middle of it. Whatever it is, I know that God is part of it. I know God has me connected. I am not my job. I am not my school. I am not, those are titles. I'm not just a mother, but I'm a human being with feelings. I'm gonna share this and I'm gonna be done. Another thing that's really hard for me to trust God in the middle of it is with my son, Antoine. I put him on the bus, sent him to Sacramento. And I know that I'm afraid that one day I'm gonna read or hear or get that call that he's dead because of his lifestyle, because he has mental health without medication, because he uses and he's irrational and he's 31 and he wants to do it his way. But I know he got a God and I ain't it. And I know that God got him, but I don't know what the purpose is. Because some people die so other people can live, and I don't want that to be my son's story. My children have came to Narcotics Anonymous, and because they was raised in Narcotics Anonymous, people have told them, y'all don't know anything, and they do. They grew up with principles, and they grew up with steps, and they grew up with me, and they grew up in these rooms, and then when they come for themselves, people say, oh, you don't know what to do, let me tell you, and they trying to tell them. So I'm telling y'all, when we're getting older, and our kids are coming here, and our grandkids are coming here, but they are introduced to the program, and y'all gotta allow them to be where they at with the information that they have, and accept them and meet them there. Because of that, my children don't want to come to Narcotics Anonymous because they're Tony's son and that's Tony's daughter, and they don't have an identity. It makes them hard for one to recover here. And I connected him to some people in Sacramento, and I just hope in the rooms that he'll reach out, because that's all I can do. So I feel like a crybaby, but it's okay. If you didn't get anything out of what I shared, listen to your own story. That's the one that got you here. That's the one that's gonna keep you here. And that's the one that kept you clean. Thank you for allowing me to share.